While some may recognize that riff as part of their own unique rock and roll fantasy, sometimes trying to finance real estate on your own can be a real nightmare. And often when it is, our clients will ask us about the possibility of adding a cosigner on their mortgage application. So today, let's talk about who makes a good cosigner and who's just bad company. Need some help realizing your real estate dreams? Let's learn how to rock adding a cosigner on a mortgage application starting right now. Hey guys, welcome to Rockin' Real Estate. I'm Rob Spinoza with Guaranteed Rate. If you're a home buyer, a homeowner, or even a real estate professional looking for home finance tips, tricks, and the occasional cool guitar licks, I've got your backstage pass to a better understanding of the mortgage business. First, and since this is a real estate video, how about we start with a little housekeeping? When we're talking about cosigners, what we're technically referring to in the mortgage industry is a non-occupant co-borrower. That's the terminology we use in our industry for a borrower who is on an application for a home that they do not intend to live in, and that home is not intended to be used as an investment property. Okay, now that we have that out of the way, I'm going to begin with perhaps the most important concept to grasp about cosigners, or non-occupant co-borrowers. They are always additive and never subtractive. Let me state that again. Cosigners add attributes to your application, but they do not subtract any from it. So, can a cosigner add qualifying income and down payment funds to your home purchase application? Yes. Can a non-occupant co-borrower make one of the other applicant's bad credit go away? No. And so with this in mind, let's go into more detail about how cosigners impact the three most important elements of any loan approval. Let's say that you've applied for a mortgage and your lender has come back and told you that you don't have enough income to qualify for the loan size that you need. Adding a cosigner could, theoretically, bring additional income onto the application and solve the issue. But in order to do so, the applicant that will add should already have a debt-to-income ratio, or DTI, of his or her own that is already quite conservative. An ideal non-occupant co-borrower should have surplus income and relatively low debts of their own. Adding a cosigner can allow a buyer to bring funds into a transaction where it otherwise might not be possible. Let's say you're buying a home and you have a friend that wants to gift you the down payment. It sounds like a great idea until you realize that for most loan programs, the gift must come from a family member. But if we add the friend as a co-borrower, we no longer have funds coming from outside the transaction from an ineligible source. We have an additional borrower inside the transaction with funds of their own. Here's where things get a bit tricky. Let's say you've applied for a home loan and a lender pulled your credit. Your FICO scores could use some improvement, but yet you'd still like to get the best rates available. You decide to add a co-borrower who you know has stellar credit. Will this work? Unfortunately, it will not. Again, your credit scores remain on the application, and lenders will typically use the lowest of the middle FICO scores when they credit grade an application. So even if your cosigner has a perfect score, most lenders will still consider yours in this example because it's the lower of the two. That will be the official credit grade of the file, and your rate will be determined on that basis. Last, there are some real considerations for cosigners themselves when they agree to help another person qualify for a mortgage. Specifically, the cosigned obligation essentially becomes their obligation too. If the primary borrower defaults on that obligation, it would also adversely impact the cosigner, so there's a shared responsibility. Cosigned debts can also factor into the debt ratio of all the borrowers, especially for the first 12 months. After that time period, sometimes future creditors will disregard a cosigned obligation if the cosigner can prove that the primary obligor has been making the payments exclusively and satisfactorily. And finally, cosigned applications involve information sharing. You are financially joining forces with another, and so it's often impossible to keep individual financial information confidential during the process, and if that's a concern. So it's vital to consider all of these aspects carefully before requesting or agreeing to any co-signing relationship. Co-signing on a mortgage can be a highly effective way to qualify in cases where it would otherwise be difficult or impossible. But co-signing is not free of serious implications for all the parties involved, so understanding them in advance is well worth your time and effort. So if you have any questions about co-signing on a mortgage or about any other aspect of the mortgage process that will get you the financing you need, Don't hesitate to get in touch at any of the links below or by calling us directly at 415-367-5959. And if you found today's video helpful, please click on the like and subscribe buttons below and we'll keep the hits coming.